Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. Video today on the changes I've made to try and stop my plants dying, basically, and get the environment here closer to how it used to be in the other place, where the majority of the plants did very well over a much longer period of time. Not all, but most. Whereas here, you know, there's half of the plants in here are not doing well now. Oh god, death, the kit's off. But first and foremost, this is important because it's quite humbling. I got up this morning and checked my mail, and somebody has made a very large donation towards the electricity bill. And it is large, let's put it this way, it's more than the government allowance per month. And it will probably cater for my increase in electricity, which I'll go over in a minute, as a consequence of the changes, for at least the next couple of months. So somebody has paid for that. So thank you, Tom. I can only do thank yous, I can't do any more. But it's somebody who bothered. Somebody who asked for my PayPal details, and I responded and basically said, if it's a one-off donation you're interested, something like that, first of all, thanks in advance, but it's easier if you use the buy me a coffee. And to get up and see a message saying somebody's bought you this number of coffees, which had a 0 on the end, and the number in front wasn't 1, it's greatly appreciated, and has alleviated some of the worry, because the increase in electricity is going to be quite a bit. We may make some savings elsewhere. So thanks for that, that's all I can say. And again, thanks for those who have done the patron thing. I've had a new patron, thanks again for joining in with that. There's been quite a few have dropped out, which was sort of expected, I suppose. And the other thing that's a little annoying is it's this time of year, the money from the YouTube advertisements drops off. It always does every year. Everybody's recovering from all the massive surge of buying stuff leading into Christmas and everything, when the advertisers have a field day, and now there's a lull. So basically the advertising drops off, so the ads don't come up as frequently, so the revenue goes down for YouTube as well as us creators. So yeah, these are normally lean months, but that will help an awful lot. Thanks, Tom. It's a bit humbling when somebody can donate that amount of money. Anyway, let's get the camera off the tripod and we'll go over the changes I've done. It's not, I don't know whether you're expecting a big drama. It isn't. It is really, but it didn't involve loads and loads of work, and these are relatively minor changes to implement. Let's just hope the effect is dramatic. That's what I'm after. So get the camera down and we'll go over the changes. Right, we're back to things that people will probably recognise who followed me at the previous place. Hurricane Hector's back up and running. I had to give it a really good clean. Yeah, it's been out of use for ages, you know, dust and bits have got in it. So good clean. There's enough RO water in the tank for a while, but that will now have to become a requirement with the RO unit, is to fill up the tank or keep it topped up. The heater and the fan are now set to a daytime temperature of 20 degrees and a nighttime temperature of 15 instead of 13. So I've taken my night temperature up and I've taken my day temperature to give me a 5-degree centigrade differential, which for this time of year is fine. And the daytime temperature will stay like that until such time as the real temperature, ambient temperature from outside and all that, you know, starts to encompass it and deal with it manually. But because it's on a thermostat, it can just stay on. So even if we get a colder spell in the summer months, I'm going to leave the heater set. I'm not going to, normally I take it away in the summer and then bring it back again in autumn, but I'll just leave it there. So anytime the temperature, daytime temperatures drop down below that level, it'll kick back on. and we'll see how that goes. Now that's fine for this time of year, but as I'm raising the temperatures, even though the day lengths haven't increased much yet, they are slowly but surely going to increase. And I've looked back over my records, and my orchids have had virtually no food for the last 2 or 3 months. So the next change is over here. Now today it's just the mounts that are going to get watered, so I use the sprayer. Now under normal circumstances, again, I'd just put plain water in, and I've been doing that for some time. So what we've got in here now is we're back to the MSU feed, not the K-Lite. So we're back to the normal feed, which I will probably use a lot of the time now. And we'll see how that goes. I mean, I used that for many, many years with success. I wanted to try something different with the K-Lite. I'm not sure it's working that well for me in my environment. So I'm going back to the normal MSU. I've still got quite a bit of that. And I'm not guessing anymore. Under normal circumstances, I'd put a sprinkle in there and just put in my notes, low feed, without even measuring it. Well, today we measured it, and that I wanted above 200 parts per million, because if these plants have been starved for quite a while, you know, then a reasonable meal for the first time, I'm okay with that. So I wanted above 200 parts per million. I took it up to, it ended up at 235. Well, 237 to be precise. And then I thought, well, that's all very well putting some feed in, but if the pH is way off, it's not going to do a lot of good. So I poured some in there, checked with the pH meter, and if I'd used it as it was, it would have had a pH of 5.4, which is too low. So I used this to take my pH up. That is incredibly alkaline, that stuff. One drip of that took it up to 6.1. Another drip took it up to 6.6, which I'm happy with, because most of the mounts have got some moss on them, which will reduce the pH over a period of time as the plant absorbs the feed. So basically their initial root soaking today will be at a pH of 6.6. Within a couple of hours that pH will start to drop, and as they take on board more and more, some of it will go in at a lower pH, which enables all of the component parts of that to get into the plants over that period of those hours. So that's what we've done for today. So those are the changes really. It doesn't sound much, but reintroducing Hurricane Hector was essential, because I was raising the daytime temperature to a level way above the outside temperature. The heater is on quite a bit of the time. We'll worry about that later. The fact that it's on for a reasonable amount of time, like it is now, and it's been on since I started this clip, if you think about it, it's drying the air, and it was drying it too much. I was watching my meters and it was dropping down, you know, sort of below 50%. So I thought, we can't have that. So we reintroduced Hurricane Hector. Now this Inkbird unit I've got there, if you look down here, it's got 2 sockets on it. One is labelled Work 1 with the plug in it, Hurricane Hector. The other one is Work 2. The unit caters for humidification and dehumidification. So if I wanted to, I could actually run the dehumidifier off of the same unit and adjust the settings that, like, you know, when this has been on all day at 20 degrees, as we go into the night and the temperature drops down to 15, the relative humidity will rise. Well, if it rises above a certain percentage, I could actually connect the dehumidifier into the same unit and dehumidify the nighttime humidity, which can get quite high. So I haven't done that yet. I'm working on it, and the idea will be that when I get woken up early one day, I'll have a look out here and see what the humidity is at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and if it's too high, then I'll connect up the dehumidifier to the same unit, and they can both run off the same unit. So I'll have everything automated. The only thing that won't be automated is the feeding and the watering, and I can't do that. There's no way I could do that in here. And I'm not really prepared to do that. I still treat picking up my plants and watering them as a luxury. It gives me a chance to inspect them. Now, the other thing that needs to be done on a rolling basis, if it's going to do any good, is the hot box. And as the bugs potentially increase with the temperatures, which is possible now because I've upped the daytime temperature, they may get going a bit more. So the hot box is supposed to be used on a regular basis, both as a, dealing with a problem and a preventative medicine. I still can't do that at night. See, it would be nice if I stuck that on at like 8 o'clock, turned it off at 9 o'clock in the evening when I go to bed, and leave all the doors shut until I get up in the morning, and then vent the place. Well, I can't be venting the place at 5 o'clock in the morning because the outside temperature will be far, far too low. And I don't want the cats shut in permanently. They've got used to being able to go out when I get up. So that's still got to be a daytime job. And it will need doing every now and again. As I said, it's a matter of inspecting the plants, which I haven't done since I used it, because the potted plants are not due for watering again yet. They're still quite wet. But with the increase in the daytime temperatures, their watering frequency will increase. I've still got a massive load of repotting to do because I want the cocoa husk out of the pots, replaced by new media, so that I know where I am with everything. And I know, that I will have 2 sets of pots. I will have those that need watering on one frequency and another set that get missed on that run. And then the next run that I do, everything gets done. And I'll divide those pots up and actually arrange them on shelves as such. I don't want to do that until after the plants have gone to Carol, which, all being well, is the beginning of next week. I'll be packing them up on the Sunday, round to the post office Monday morning, and off they go to Wales, deepest West Wales as well. So that's to come, and that will clear some space on some of the shelves to allow me to rearrange plants, and we'll see how we go. So those are the changes. The main worry, and I can't say I'm not going to worry about it because I am that sort of person, is the cost of this lot, reintroducing quite a heavy cost. But there is an upside. The door remains shut, so the heating in the house heats the house, and that's it. I'm not losing a lot of my heat from the lounge to try and keep this place warm. I'm using that instead. So there'll be a reduction in cost for keeping the house warm as we, progress through winter. Eventually the heating won't even be on anymore because, won't need it. And this won't get used much. So the costs will go down as the year progresses, but initially these first 2 or 3 months are going to be expensive. So it's got to be done. Quite honestly, I've lost enough plants already, and many of which are irreplaceable. I won't ever be able to get them again. Chances of seeing them for sale in this country are virtually zero, so we'll have to put up with it. So those are the changes I've done. Doesn't seem much, but I had to reprogram the humidistat to clean out Hurricane Hector, get that up and running. The siphonic pipe that I use, because basically the water is fed into there from the header tank purely by gravity, basically. The pipe was completely blocked. I had to take that out in the kitchen sink and push a wire through it. And then normally, to get a siphon working, all you people who used to get petrol out of tanks when you were young, allegedly, you put one end in the fluid and suck the other end until it comes out, at which point the pipe's full and it will continue to flow using the air pressure. That's the principle. Well, because I was out in the kitchen with a wire poking through, once I'd got it all cleaned out, I put it in a U shape under the tap and actually filled it with water. and then just brought it in here and put one end in there, and it started to run immediately, and then poked the other end in there. So I didn't have to do the sucky thing with potential bacteria and God knows what that's probably in that RO water. I would imagine the RO water's pretty clean. It's got a lid on it, and it was pure water when it went in there. Can't be that bad. And when it gets topped up, I'll probably empty it completely and give it a little bit of a clean. I didn't have time to do that yesterday and didn't have enough RO water to replace what's in there. But I will do. I will replace the water that's in there with new stuff and give it a bit of a clean as well. That way the water coming out in here to humidify the place is clean and relatively pure. Well, as pure as I'm going to get it, which is good. You know, that all helps the environment. So that's where we are. It was a deep breath job, really, you know, to have that heater running to get daytime temperatures up to sort of 19, 20 as an average. Now, okay, the days are quite short at the moment, but even at night it's going to be running more than it has been so far through the winter, because I've gone up from 13 to 15. Yeah, so I've got a greater nighttime temperature now. And I'm just hoping that that will stop any more dying through cold. Those that have already been chilled into the bones of the plant effectively might not have show signs of cold damage yet, but could still go down as a consequence of the temperatures prior to these changes. So I still may lose a couple. I can see one out of the corner of my eye that I don't think is going to make it, but it might do. It's lost leaves on 4 canes, but still has green leaves on 2. And it's just a matter of whether the temperature increase can bring it back from the brink, basically. And we'll see how we go. Now, the cooler growers that should have been okay with those lower temperatures are also going to be okay with these temperatures. Yeah? So although the nighttime temperature's not dropping down as low as they are capable of putting up with, it's not high enough that it's going to class them, you know, change their classification and move them into an uncomfortable environment. The amount of heat I'd added in here is not enough to do any damage to the cooler growers. And then what I'm hoping for is that as the day lengths get to the appropriate place, with the additional daytime temperatures, which I will increase a bit more when we get to that point, I'm hoping that I induce the growths at the right time of year. That's yet to be seen, but we can hope. So that's what I've done. Those are the changes. I can't say I'm happy with them. I'm happy with them in as I have the confidence that we've done the job. And you know, we've stopped the deaths of some plants and hopefully improved a lot of, well over half of the plants in here by changing these temperatures. And in changing the temperatures, we've also increased the humidity to balance out the increased temperature. Yeah, so I'm happy with that. And I also feel a bit more comfortable reverting back to the MSU feed. We gave the other stuff a try. And maybe I didn't give it a long enough try to emphatically say that it wasn't as good as I was expecting. Let's put it that way. And chances are there's probably certain genera that would thrive on it, and there are probably going to be some that won't. And that's the same with any feed, really. You know, these plants are different. They're not all the same. So I will monitor what's going on and keep my eye on things. But I was just worried that the K-lights, because of the what I call a total imbalance of elements, I was worried that the calcium and the magnesium was not doing its job in the plant properly. And the lack of calcium in the plants would account for new growths rotting and dying. Yeah? Because the calcium is immobile. If it can't get to the parts it needs to get to, then they haven't got the strength. They haven't got that backup of the calcium. And bearing in mind they were hardly getting fed at all, I think we've resolved one problem just by thinking about it a bit more. Anyway, that's where we are. And I will keep you posted, and we'll see how we go. But it's quite nice to be able to come out here like now and do a bit of filming, and it's comfortable. You know, whereas up until recently I've been coming out of here and it may have been just about comfortable, but the lounge wasn't, because the lounge was chilling down all the time, losing the heat out here. So we balanced that out. So there we go. All good stuff, I hope. There's logic behind the changes, but the proof of the pudding will be in the plants, as always. See you next time.